Anybody, anywhere,
It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen.
This pass caught by Paulsen, the tight end.
And from 106.7 The Fan, Grant Paulsen.
Welcome into Take Command. Logan Paulsen spent a decade in the NFL. I'm Grant Paulsen. You can listen to me on 106.7 The Fan. Of course, watch the pod on the 106.7 and Team 980 YouTube channel. Subscribe, rate, review, and get the pod wherever you get your audio. Logan, we are in Ashburn. We just watched one of the shorter, kind of quicker practices of camp here on this Thursday, which it could mean that we get to see players play on Saturday, I would think.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what it feels like. And, you know, we don't know for sure, but like they kind of did some carded stuff today. And we don't know for sure, but it looked like Detroit stuff. And Jayden Daniels took some reps there. And I guess if you're not prepping, you know, if I'm Jayden Daniels, like I'm not prepping Detroit unless I'm thinking about playing. So definitely on the table here.
Explain what you mean by carded stuff, Detroit stuff. Like, what did you see?
Yeah, so carded stuff is basically like instead of like you being the defensive coordinator going out and calling our defense, so the Commander's defense, like we hold up a little picture. It's got like a, you know, the coverage circles, the blitz lines, the stunt pattern, and then the scout team or the guys that did it today were like the third group will run the look, and you get kind of a feel for stuff that Detroit does. So they ran some pressures that Detroit runs, ran some coverages Detroit runs, and just to kind of get your feet wet and kind of start prepping some of the calls that you're going to utilize in the game.
Yeah, so all systems seem like they point toward Daniels actually getting some run against the Lions. What's interesting is it's not going to be all the starters because they're immensely banged up.
Yeah.
Not a ton of longer-term injuries. We'll talk about Johnny Newton in a second, who joins Laramie Tunsil as a guy that's going to miss an extended period of time. But they do have a list of like almost 20 players now that in some variations are banged up enough that they haven't been practicing in full.
Yeah, and again, that's always like a tough deal this time of year, like with training camp. But it's like the thing we talked about in the last show, like that line you're walking where it's like, hey, man, you know, how injured are you? How healthy are you? Like, we got to make sure we're getting the physical body contacts in. But you, again, like you're kind of always walking that line and getting guys nicked up. A good thing is none of them seem like they're too serious, or at least that's based on Dan's comments and kind of their reactions. But it is tough because you got to make sure everyone's ready for week one.
So let's talk Johnny Newton for a second. That's the big update we got. We heard he was at a specialist's office in New York meeting about his pec yesterday. Then the report came out last night on Wednesday night that Johnny Newton is actually had surgery and that he's going to be out for an extended period of time. I'm hearing November-ish maybe that he could come back and play. Notice nobody's saying he's done for the year, so it probably wasn't the full Brian Arakpo, like out for the year pec tear. But still, that's a big loss for this team. Timetable sounds like somewhere around 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You said big loss, and again, like it's interesting looking at like the rest of the depth in that room, like with, you know, Barber and Tuttle, like those guys have been playing pretty well. And again, like you have the addition of Tim Settle, and like the depth in that room has been, you know, Charles Omenihu has done a great job in training camp. So I don't know. Like, I mean, obviously, never want anyone to get hurt, and you know, Johnny's a guy that this team's invested a lot in terms of draft capital. But I think those other guys are doing a great job. You know, I think we talked about them after the preseason game. Like those two kind of, I guess, one's an undrafted free agent from last year and one's a free agent this year. Like they're playing good ball. And so when you got that kind of depth on the interior that's 6 deep, I think you feel pretty good about that. So again, bummer for Johnny, but I think the team's in a decent spot.
Well, yeah, so let me go back to the big deal comment. Number one, he's a second-round pick, 36th overall, going into year 3 in a gotta-have-it season.
Yeah.
First 2 years have, frankly, been ultra disappointing for various reasons. You know, the year 1 injuries last year. And I'll just raise my own hand. This is my own evaluation. Like, I thought he was a first-round talent.
Yeah.
And I thought he was going to kick ass as a pass rusher. We've seen that in one game where he dominated the Cowboys on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And otherwise, it's been a very different player. So you just kind of were hoping, like, there's a breakout looming or that this is the year you see that.
It is year 3 to sport that. Like, that's when a lot of guys do it. And so, like, this was kind of a big breakout year potentially for him.
Now or never time, right? But on top of that, yes, there's a rotation. And I think the way that's almost like platoonable with like a Settle on rundowns, or they like this Shy Tuttle guy at nose tackle. But on passing downs on a 3rd and 7, if he's on the team, he's going to be on the field.
That was the idea, yeah.
He can push the pocket and get up the field and rush the quarterback. So I still think it's a loss from just a depth standpoint. Anytime you're part of a rotation And everyone I asked thought he was still a lock to make the team. Like he was going to play. It wasn't like he was going to be down on Sunday. So you'd rather have him than not from a pass rushing standpoint.
Yeah, 100%. And again, like I don't want to say like it's not significant, right? Because he's a person, he's a human being. Like he's worked a lot for this. And again, like he did, like you said, had like a kind of a projected role on this defense. But I do think the depth's decent, and I think you're in a good spot. And I think the other thing too is you got some emergence of some guys on the perimeter from a pass rush standpoint. And I can envision those guys kind of some of them bumping inside, getting some reps to kind of offset the loss of that. And then obviously you have the linebacker depth where, Frankie can rush the passer, Leo Chenal can rush the passer. So, yes, significant, but I think this team is kind of weirdly qualified from a depth perspective. It's like some of these other injuries, you can feel those injuries like really acutely. Now it kind of seems to me like, like you can offset some of his potential production.
The quote from Dan Quinn, by the way, before practice was today, just to give the exact quote, he said a good amount of starters will get some play time in Detroit on Saturday. So I don't know what that means. A good amount could be 6. That could be 24 of, the 33 on 3 phases.
And I was talking to Ben Standing. He said he was also a little bit non-committal about whether Jayden was going to play. Like he
did not say he was going to play. I just took out of practice my own opinion that he's going to play.
Yeah, that's kind of, again, I agree with you, but he was a little bit like.
He definitely did not say Jayden's definitely playing.
Yeah.
There's also been this thing floating around. I want to get your thoughts on this because I've heard a lot of people talking about this, and I think it's bupkis. I've never used that term. I don't. Is that even used correctly?
No, I don't even know. I get. Yeah,
I was trying not to say BS.
Yeah, like kind of like a lie, like
nonsense. Yeah, I think it is tomfoolery.
That's I feel like something my grandma would say.
It would definitely. Yeah, it's like an old man term. Like, I'm gonna say bupkis and 2 shakes of a lamb style. Like, it's a wacky phrase, but I think it's nonsensical. So this idea that if Allegretti doesn't play and he's not going to play, then you can't play Jayden Daniels. And my point on that is something you can't tell me that you can't play Jayden Daniels behind Julian Good-Jones, but then also have him be one play away from being your starter.
Yeah.
Like if that's how you feel about Julian Good-Jones, that's fine. But also then he's currently the starter on the team if they have a game against the Eagles on Sunday.
Yeah.
So both of those can't be true. So I don't do the if Allegretti doesn't play, then you can't play Jayden thing. I think that's preposterous because Allegretti has practiced twice, basically, in the entirety of camp.
And I don't even know it'd be good for his rehab at this point for him to play. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
So he was ruled out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So he's definitely because the other thing about Allegretti, I'll come back to the Jayden point in a second. He left practice yesterday.
Yeah, that's right.
So he came back. He had a sore calf, or I don't know what they're calling it. He walked off the practice field with the head trainer yesterday. He's already been ruled out for the Lions game and is going to kind of have a couple of days. So hopefully this is very minor and he's back next week or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like this thing keeps now lingering. This is now second calf issue that he's had. And my point is the starter's Julian Good-Jones for right now. That's the top guy on the depth chart. So if you're saying Jayden can't play behind him when you're a few weeks away from the Eagles game, that doesn't make sense to me.
No, I think that's a great point. Like because Dan, I think the quote was like he's dependent on other people. And so obviously if I'm going to say 5, if those 5 guys are ready to go, I'm talking about Coleman, Chris Paul, Good-Jones, Cosme, and Connerly, like I think you say, okay, we feel pretty good about it. And maybe it's dependent on the receivers, dependent on the volume of game plan, something like that. But to me, like I think he's going to play. He practiced today like he was going to play. I think, again, like you said, like that, those are the guys right now, if there was a game tomorrow, that would be playing.
How do you feel about Good-Jones' camp and like what you've seen? They made a point to say all offseason that he'd push Allegretti as in a competition.
Yeah.
I mean, do you he's only played 2 snaps in his career.
Yeah. So I think the thing is like he does some good things. Like you see him like with hat placement, he's a really good athlete. Like he's really twitched up. And so like I kind of like that historically for my centers, especially in an outside zone team. They've been a little bit more gap heavy, tight zone, like pin pull type stuff, which, like I don't know if that necessarily speaks 100% to his skill set, but I like some of the stuff he does, like in terms of like where my hat's got to be, second level blocks. I think the one thing you got to just keep an eye on with him because he's not a big guy. Like it sounds crazy because he's like 300 pounds, but he's not like this, like these mammoth 320, 330 pound centers like Creed Humphrey in Kansas City. You just got to keep an eye on the pass pro a little bit because like if you get, like you said, you talked about this before, if you get a true nose and you can't really insulate him as well, like in a 5-man front or something like that, he's going to have to win that matchup. And I think he's done a decent job of that, but you definitely see at times like in one-on-ones, there's some pocket compression and like that guy's going to get pushed back a little bit. And that's because of how he's built. So I think he's been fine. I think I'd say good. He's been good, but there are some things you just got to kind of just keep watching for. If he does play in the preseason game, keep an eye on that. Like just how much penetration he's giving up kind of thing.
Logan Paulsen, Grant Paulsen, take command. This is something that just reminded me, talking about the center position. Yesterday, I saw Will Montgomery.
Oh, yeah?
Out in One Loudon over in Ashburn right after practice. And we were just chopping it up. He's a great dude. I know he's a buddy of yours.
Yeah.
And he told me to tell you, because you had brought him up on the last pod.
Yeah.
Talking about his 6 bullets, and he was laughing about that. He's like, ask Logan to tell you the story on the pod about when I popped out my AC joint in Arizona. And he told me the story from his version, but I want to hear your version. Dude. This was probably 2010, I think, in the preseason, because he said Richard Bartell was the quarterback. Yeah. So that was like the terrible quarterback 2010 thing.
Dude, it's one of the funny, like we're talking about like formative NFL memories. This is one of them for me, because it showed me that it was like a totally different ball of wax, right? So we're out there, and it's the 4th preseason game, and Arizona's playing all their starters, and so they got a bunch of studs out there, and I'm on kickoff return. I'm in the wedge. We're doing the old hold hands thing.
This is back in the day when they were like
4-man
car crashes.
Yes. Yeah. And so basically, like we get out there, and they have this absolute stud out at the R3. And he's like, he's 6'6", I think he's 280, kind of a 5 technique, kind of big body guy. And Danny Smith's like, all right, we'll take care of you guys. We're just going to go return left. Just get away from him, because like we don't want anybody getting hurt. And so, we go through a couple, doing left. Oh, this is great. And then all of a sudden, Danny gets pissed about something. He's like, let's go right at him. Let's run it in. And I was like, oh, my God. Because what you do is you get out there and you count it. So it's like, 1, 2, 3, those are the wedge guys, right? And when you click out there, you're like, God, that dude is huge.
And he's just flying down at full speed, trying to blow you guys
and
up.
He's trying to make a team too, right?
Yeah.
So we get out there, we get back, we hold hands, and it's the wedge. It's a vivid memory for me because it was like traumatic because it's like a car accident, right? And all of a sudden it just parts like the Red Sea, and there's this dude running like a freaking stallion, bro. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I'm on the far left of the wedge. So basically, if anybody loses their block, I gotta like duck out and kind of seal it up, make sure they're whole in the return. And I am praying, like, please, I'm like looking over here, like, please, someone miss, because I do not want any part of this.
Yeah.
And so last second, someone loses, and I peel off and go get this guy, and there's an explosion, bro. Like an explosion behind me. Like that one where you hear the helmets hit, and it's like there's the plastic is deforming, and you're just like, oh my God. And so I turn around, and this big ass joker just pops up, and he just jogs off the field, totally unfazed. I look back and I look down, and Will is on the ground, like he's holding his arm, like he is dying. And so it's the 4th preseason game. So we don't have enough people. We don't have another center.
No one's coming back.
No one's coming in. And so he starts walking to the sideline, and the whole offensive staff is like, you got to go. You got to go. And so Will walks out there like he is in a ton of pain. So Bartell gets in the huddle. He's like, all right, guys, we got. And Will is.
Let me say really quick before you keep going.
Yeah.
So the way Will told me too, he says, in addition to and he showed me yesterday.
It's crazy, right?
His AC, like, I don't know anything about bodies.
Yeah.
So he's saying it's the AC, but he has like in his shoulder, like a lump up to here still from this collision.
Yeah, from this collision.
So he's like, that's from my AC popping. But the other thing was, he said, I lost my wind.
Oh, it was.
He's like, and I hadn't got it took me, he's like, it's the longest it's ever taken me to get my wind back. So he's like in the huddle, and that's why he's making this noise where he's like,
it was a crazy sound, and Bartell's trying to get the play out, and Will is loud, like it's like, and Bartell's like, all right, we'll give you a second, and literally it was like a 13-play drive, and the whole time he can't lift up his arm, and every time he comes back to the huddle, he's making this because he can't catch his breath. And I was like, this is the NFL, boys. Yeah, everyone talks about people getting hurt, like in the 4th preseason, like this was like such a crazy moment for me, and Will obviously is still feeling the repercussions of that.
Yeah, as we laugh, like he's at lunch with his mom at One Loudon yesterday, showing me his shoulder that like touches the roof, basically. It's wild. But he told me, he's like, tell Logan to tell that story. I don't know that he knew it would be that quick, but we talked about centers, so here we are.
Yeah, here we are. We're
turning it around. You're listening to Take Command. We talked a little bit about injuries. Here are the guys that were working on the side with trainers today. Marcus Mariota with the MCL, Jeremy McNichols with the quad, Jordan McGee with the shoulder, Caleb Von Chase on knee. That's from the joint practice against the Dolphins. Tim Settle calf, and Rashad White hamstring. None of those really expected to linger that long. Mariota's maybe the longest of them, but hopefully those other guys. McNichols is the other one that could be weeks, not days, but ideally you get some guys back out there pretty quickly. I wanted really fast to talk about some bubble players here on this short pod looking ahead to the Lions game. I think the safety position's gotten really interesting.
It's gotten very interesting, yeah.
When I did my crack at a 53 yesterday, I had 10 DBs.
Did you write it out?
I did. So I had 10 DBs.
Okay.
I had 5 corners, 5 safeties.
Okay.
With Tyler Owens obviously in on special teams.
Okay.
I did not have Will Harris on the roster. I would be surprised if he got cut, but it does feel like maybe there's a veteran like him or Quan Martin or something, unless you kept 6 safeties, which is fine if you keep 4 corners. Right. But, the guy that I would have to cut would be Antonio Hamilton, who I think, A, could be a badass on teams, and B, has had a great camp and was the best player maybe in the preseason game. Yeah. So maybe if you really like Harris that much and he's going to play teams, you could keep him over Hamilton, who could be on the squad. But that's what I've got right now is like a surprising cut bubble player in the secondary.
Yeah, and again, like when you watch like practice, like there aren't a lot of times where you can really tell like definitively like who's with the starters, who's with the backups, because they do a pretty good job of rotating. Like there's times where it's like, hey, those guys were the second safeties yesterday, they're with the ones, or hey, that linebacker. Like there was a day where Kane Madrano was basically playing nickel with the ones. You're like, that's a crazy thing. Like, yeah, we haven't seen that all camp, and I think they're just trying guys out in new spots, which is smart. But the one time you can kind of get a feel is when they're doing special teams, right? They get like the first kickoff out there, first kickoff return. And those guys are usually like kind of the back half of the roster guys you did expect to see, like, Rebo's on kickoff coverage, T.O.'s on kickoff coverage, Percy, but the guys you'd expect to see out there. And the one person that's been kind of noticeably absent from that group is Harris, right? Because he's like, they've got other people in there. They've got some of the young linebackers out there. They've got some young receivers, but he's the guy that has kind of been on the outside looking in. And then I think you couple that with his utilization is it like his average utilization in practice, which is kind of like that 2-3 group, plus what he did in the preseason game, which was he's out there in the third quarter. Like, speaking from experience, like if you're a veteran guy who's going to contribute to this team, usually you're not playing in the third quarter.
The other question on the bubble is, do all 6 linebackers make it? I think they do, because I'm assuming Madrano and Cajo are going to play a lot of teams, but McGee would be able to play teams as well. Yeah. And watching like super closely, like you were just talking about the last couple of days, at some of the ways that they've done it, McGee hasn't been out there. So if he's out there, and maybe I'm just going to say Cajo isn't, then maybe he's on the outside looking in. Yeah. I think if you keep 10 defensive linemen and you keep 10 DBs, you're probably only keeping 5 linebackers. Right. I, on my roster, had 90 linemen.
Who do you remember who they were?
Yeah, I could go through the names for you. But give me, while I pull that up real quick, give me a thought on 5 versus 6. If a linebacker doesn't make it, Ale Cajo coming off the pick in the preseason, Kane Madrano, who can fly, or Jordan McGee, who seems to be the best defensive player of the 3. Yeah, right. Like, who wouldn't make it?
Yeah, so I think that's a tough question. And it's tough, man, because I think like Cajo did a great job on teams last year. And I think last year was a better teams player than Madrano, despite Madrano's athleticism. And I think McGee, when he's played teams, has done a really good job. And I don't think you would keep 6 linebackers. And I think this is something else I wanted to touch on for fans, and this, Grant, but like with the expanded, practice squad roster, you could definitely get one of those guys to practice squad.
Totally.
And because of the elevation rules, like they're basically going to be up, on a lot of game days and helping out.
So you're saying it doesn't matter that much?
I don't, with the linebackers specifically. I think all those guys are in the program. There's certain guys where you're like, I think Harris is an interesting example. Like, could you get him to practice squad? Could he be here? I'm not sure, but I think with those 3 young linebackers, you could definitely get them to practice squad, and they're around. So in terms of active, I think you keep 5 on the 53 initially, and then you have a kind of a flex spot practice squad position that makes you feel pretty good about the whole.
All right, so for the D line, Kinlaw, Settle, Payne, that's 3. Yep. Now I put the edges in here as well. Yep. So Caleb Monchason, Adafe Owen, up to 5, right? Charles Omenihu is 6. Okay. Now you don't have to worry about Johnny Newton, so I'll go to Dorrance Armstrong, 7. Yep. Joshua Joseph's 8. I think Shai Tuttle makes the team. Yep. 9.
I agree.
Now, Wise is still on PUP. You don't have to worry about him. That means right now that I don't have Javonte Jean-Baptiste, that I don't have Ricky Barber, who I really like. Yeah. No other surprises like a Jeffrey Umba. I thought the best player on the field for them in the preseason was Byron Cowart. They just signed a guy in Maurice Hurst, who's been a veteran, who's been played in the league every year. So that's a lot of guys that I don't have making it if they only keep 9.
I think the one,
especially after the Newton injury, you feel like there's another D tackle they got to keep.
I think so too. But the guy that's had a great camp, especially the last couple of days, is Jean-Baptiste. He's been excellent. In terms of like having a nice stout presence against the run. Had some really nice power rushes. So, and I know they like him. Again, hasn't really been in the mix from a special team standpoint, which makes you a little bit concerned. Like where they see him. Now, also a guy you could probably get to practice squad, but. Yeah, that is an interesting group from a depth standpoint.
But going through this with you right now, I think you have to have 10.
Yeah.
Especially now that we know Newton's out for months and months and months. Like at D tackle, do you have enough with Kinlaw, Settle, Payne? I'm going to say Omenahu plays some of that with Tuttle. Those 5 guys, is that enough or do you need a 6th?
I think you probably want a 6th, just for some depth. And again,
but that's not John Baptiste, is it?
No, it'd be like Ricky Barber. Yeah.
So but that would be 11 if you kept Baptiste.
Yeah, I don't think so. I guess what I'm saying is because of what you just pointed out, I think you try to get Baptiste to the practice squad, and then you kind of say, hey.
Ricky Barber's the guy to watch in Detroit, then.
I think 100%. Yeah,
he had a good game in Miami.
Dude, and the thing about him is I was not familiar because I always thought of him as like a 4-eye, 3 technique type of guy, more of a penetrating player. But they had him playing true nose, and I thought he did a great job at the nose. Just because everyone thinks, nose got to be this big hulking.
He's listed at 2. He's only 290.
290. But I don't know if you remember this when Philly was really good. And Treg Cole was playing edge with Connor Barwin and some of those guys. They had a nose guard. I want to say his last name was Logan, but he was 295
during the Fletcher Cox era.
Yeah, and he played nose, and Fletcher Cox played 4-eye. And so Fletcher Cox is this huge mammoth guy, but he did a great job because he was so quick. He could read out of double teams really well. And I was talking to Corey Lichtensteiger about him. I remember leading up, and they were he is the hardest nose to block because he's so quick and he can play both A gaps really well. So I think Ricky Barber, again, I'm not saying he's, going to be a, great pro or anything like that, but he has shown signs of kind of that skill set that allows you to play a little bit undersized at the nose guard spot.
Wide receiver bubble stuff.
Oh my goodness. This is disgusting.
This one's tough.
The linebackers, you kind of one of those 3 is going to make it. We just talked about the D-line. It kind of makes sense. Safeties, I have no feel for receivers.
So I've got them keeping 7.
Okay.
If they keep, because the way I have it now, I will say we just added a D lineman,
but we took away a linebacker.
So we're back to 25 on defense. I still have my 25 on offense, and I had 7 wide receivers for that 25. I'm only keeping 2 quarterbacks because now
that's probably right. Though.
Now that kicking Paulsen's retired, 2 quarterback Paulsen has showed up.
Yeah, well, I think that's the right way to do it. And I'm a little confused. Do you know this about you can keep. Your practice squad guy can be up on game day and not count against the 53.
Correct.
So even though you're keeping,
you get a 46th, I guess, active player in the form of the extra quarterback.
Yeah, okay.
But they have to be on your 53-man roster.
Oh,
I don't think you can elevate a practice squad player.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's what I was confused about. Sorry.
Yeah. I'll double check on that, but I'm pretty sure that's true. But it's just a third quarterback allowance.
Yeah. Okay.
But that guy you can't just pull that guy from this. He can't be on the Stonebridge Bulldog.
Amir would be a great third quarterback.
Amir would be silly. Amir, I'm psyched for you this year. This guy needs to get you out.
On the perimeter. Yeah, getting some shots down the field.
Throw some shots down the field.
Yeah.
But anyway, receiver. So I'm saying Lane's a punt returner, which allows me the 7th because I've got the throwing him onto his own pile, so to speak. But even with 7, you're still cutting Van Jefferson or Luke McCaffrey, basically, if that's the bottom of the barrel.
So it's McLaurin, Diggs, Burks, Williams. I'm losing my mind here.
Yeah, so I think in the order of definitely on the team, McLaurin and Diggs.
Yes.
I would say the third guy in is Williams as a rookie, like Sharpie.
Yep.
4th guy would be Lane.
Okay.
Now, that's where those are the only guys you separate and say they're in.
Yeah.
I think Burks has to be in based on his camp preseason size, the fact that he's different.
Diami, right?
Right? And then Diami would be 6. Deep threat 6. So now it's either Luke, kick returner, and 7th guy, or Van Jefferson, who I don't want to cut, but probably would.
Yeah. So I think that's the other one, kind of just looking at the special team stuff, the guy that's been getting reps, the kick returner has been Luke. The guy that's been working as a gunner in practice has been Luke. The guy that's been working as kind of that R4-3 on kickoff coverage has been Luke. So again, Van Jefferson, I think, has been a little bit more consistent as a receiver, like just down to down, which makes sense.
With Van, he probably could turn down a practice squad opportunity to go look somewhere else.
I think so. So
but they have Jaden Bradley, who I love, going to the practice squad probably.
And then probably the other guy too,
Jacoby Jones.
Both those guys have been excellent.
I agree.
So
I think they're really stacked at receiver.
Yeah, it's funny how that one addition just changed the whole complexion of it. Yeah, because I think both those guys are studs. I think they're on the practice squad. And then I think if you're Van Jefferson, you probably look around and say, has there been an injury in the receiver room where I can go? Because I think he can play. He's a really good player. Really good is probably an exaggeration, but in terms of a role-playing receiver that has NFL talent and experience, 100%. So
running back, I think, will be interesting in Detroit as well because Bill tweaked something watching him in practice. It looked like running down the sideline. Now, I don't have a practice report or injury update, so he could play possibly. But just the way they typically operate, I would say you're careful with him.
Yeah.
He was kind of hobbled, I would say, coming off the practice field a little bit. No idea if it's a big deal or not. But that said, they're not going to push it 2 days from now at noon.
And so especially with the travel day, he's probably
makes no sense.
Yeah.
So
this is one. Okay, so when Dan said that Jayden is dependent, so everyone thought it was the center. I thought it was the back.
Why do you think?
Because Rashard White's not going to play potentially.
Pass pro.
Yeah. And then Bill's not going to play now. And then so you're relying on 2 rookies in a pass protecting situation with your starting quarterback. And everyone is familiar with the Jackson Dart thing where the back missed protection and got him in the blue tent. So that,
by the way,
that is what I thought.
Don't you think that was kind of a diabolical pressure in the first quarter of the preseason? Right. I'm not acting like it was they invented the wheel differently, but they brought a nickel off of the, the Washington's lining up 3-4 and being read and react. Brian Flores brought a freaking nickel corner on a blitz.
That's the one thing about the preseason. We've talked about this before. Is a lot of teams will come out and just kind of, hey, here's a couple just right down the pipe, and you're like, oh, great, I can reach this. Oh, pass, run the route. But every once in a while, I get somebody who's like, hey, you want to see something crazy? Want to see a dead body? Let's go check this out. You're like, whoa, I don't want that right now. I don't want to see that in the preseason. And so, got to pay attention, man.
So let's say they're going to play Jayden.
Yeah.
Let's say that they've already made up their mind. They're playing Jayden Daniels. But now you don't have Bill potentially. What do you do differently?
Well, so I think that's the thing that becomes interesting. Is you're fine because Rashard White knows the protections, right? Oh, well, Bill's hurt, Rashard White, but they're both hurt. And you say, oh, well, McNichols will do it because he knows the protection. He's hurt, right? Yeah. Jeremy Ford, he's done all the protections, but he's hurt. So now you're going to be relying on 2 rookie running backs who I think are good players. But the one thing that I would be concerned about is when you play Detroit, they are a little bit on the aggressive side. They're going to bring double A's. They're going to bring 7-man pressures. They're going to bring kind of 0 looks. So, how comfortable do you feel?
You have Craig Reynolds.
That's the way you go.
Reynolds probably on passing downs or early in the game. Just that's kind of how he made his money in Detroit.
I think that's a good point. Just so you want someone who's experienced, knows the protection calls, can identify things, and is not going to throw a no-hitter. You don't want, that classic click at the back where they step up, and it ends up being like a fire zone over here, and then this dude just runs and kills the quarterback. With young, because when I was a rookie, I was the pass protection 3rd down alternate for Chris Cooley. It wasn't Fred Davis. So skip Fred Davis and went to me. And I would be in there because I didn't get the reps in practice. I'd be studying tape, counting safeties because you're you cannot miss this because you're going to get cut, basically.
Yeah.
And some of these pressures are so complicated. And so if you're a running back and you're not expecting it to be hard in the preseason game, I think everyone talks about Allegretti. I think they're fine with good Jones or whoever's going to play center. To me, it's the running back that would be maybe indicative of who's going to play in this game.
That's interesting. Logan Paulsen, Grant Paulsen, take command looking ahead to Saturday at noon against the Lions. We'll have 3 episodes for you next week, including a full breakdown of the game on Monday after Logan watches the tape. Please let people know that we do this. We want to grow this podcast this football season. Also, subscribe, rate, review, do all of that podcasty stuff. Thanks for producer Evan. And Logan, I'm Grant saying so long.